Hello, my name is Sarah and I am an English teacher and language anxiety coach, and today I am joined with
Silvia. I'm an English enthusiast from Italy. I'm one of your students and I'm an English teacher too. Hi, Sarah.
Hello Sylvia.
Okay.
So Sylvia, you have just passed your CPE exam, is that correct? Yeah. And today we're going to get together and have a chat about the use of English, part 1, the multiple choice close. So what's the purpose of this question? What does it test people on?
Yeah, so the multiple choice clause is the first exercise, the first part of the reading and use of English. And here Cambridge tests your ability to use vocabulary in English. So they basically test your knowledge of vocabulary rather than grammar. They want to make sure that you know collocations, chunks, verb phrases, semantic expressions.
So we could look at it as being a very big vocabulary test.
It
In that
is.
sense. Okay. And tell us a little bit about the marking system for the multiple choice close.
Well, here you have to fill in 8 gaps, and each gap is 1 mark. You have 4 options for each gap, which is something tricky because the words they give you, some of them are very similar and subtle. So this is the difficulty of this kind of exercise.
Okay. And so is there 1 mark for each option, 1 mark for each gap in the text?
Right. So you have 25% a possibility to succeed. And I highly recommend a student to choose one of the 4 options, even if you don't know which one is the correct one.
Absolutely. There's no point leaving an empty space.
Oh.
You might as well just guess. And when you did your CPE exam, how much time did you allow for this multiple choice close?
5 to 6 minutes, no more, as the entire paper is 1 hour and a half for 7 different parts. Considering that the reading is where you spend most of the time, just give 5 to 6 minutes for this first exercise.
Okay, so it's got to be pretty quick then.
It is to be quick, yeah.
Okay, and we're going to go and have a look at an example question in just a minute. But before we do that, can you give people just a very quick general tip on how to prepare? If there was one thing people should do, what should they do?
Read as much as possible. So try to become an avid reader. Well, here Cambridge usually use online blogs, articles from newspapers, books, so texts, literary texts from books. So try to read a huge variety of sources of material.
Yeah,
which is the main thing to do to ace this part of the test.
cool. So lots of reading practice. 1 mark for each question, needs to be done in 5 to 6 minutes, and we're talking a lot about vocabulary. That sounds great. Let's go and have a look at an example question.
Right.
All right, so here we are. This is what the multiple choice close looks like. And just to be clear, this one is taken from one of the Cambridge Proficiency test books. It's test book 2, and this is test 4. So Sylvia, as a candidate, as a CPE candidate, when you look at this, what do you now think you need to do?
Well, first of all, read the entire article from the title to the end and try to understand the general content, but also the writer train of thought.
So for you, you would definitely start up here and then give yourself how much time to read through, would you say?
A couple of minutes minimum.
Okay. And why is that important? Because I've worked with CPE candidates who don't do that. I've worked with several who just jump straight down to the answers. Why do you think it's so important to read the whole text first?
Well, how can you understand a text if you don't read it fully? I mean, here is a matter of choosing the right vocabulary, the right word. And you can do it only if you are very confident with what is written and what the writer meant to write.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
otherwise it is impossible, Sarah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm afraid we have to understand that this kind of test is mainly about collocations, idioms, and semantic expressions.
Yeah.
So we have to be very confident with it.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. So if I'm teaching this question, I will always encourage people to read the whole text first, because without that global knowledge, these details are much more challenging to figure out.
You're right.
Okay, so 2 minutes to read. And then once you've done that, you've got your kind of global understanding. What do you do next? How do you solve this question?
Yeah, now you can go through the 4 options for each single gap, and make sure that you understand the sentence which comes before the gap and the sentence which comes after.
Yeah.
Because sometimes collocations are, well, of course, they combine with words, okay? The collocation is a combination of 2 or 3 words, but you have to have a clear understanding of what's going on in this short paragraph. So for number 1, for example, I would read the first sentence, that sentence, and the next one,
Okay.
to understand that mundane is the right adjective.
Okay. So talk us through this, because you've just given us the answer here. How did you come to the conclusion that mundane fits so well into space 1?
So we are talking about plastic, aren't we? So it is something rather mundane, rather is something negative. I'm expecting something quite negative. Mundane is something that I use on a regular basis. Trivial is not the right one. Okay, doesn't make sense. Routine makes me understand that we are talking about something that we use on a day-to-day basis. Customary doesn't make any sense here. So I would go with mundane for sure. But yeah, in this case, because the collocation is mundane material.
Mundane
For
material.
something, yeah.
I agree. So this word here, trivial, if something is trivial, it's unimportant. You know, you get in August in the UK, all the politicians go on summer holidays and the newspapers don't have anything to write about. So we get all these articles about really trivial things because nothing important's happening.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit into that space. For me, the tricky one is do I know if it's D or if it's B? And I
Shall
guess
I use routine material? Is it an adjective? I'm looking for an adjective here, which combines with rather and material.
Okay. And this one here, when it's customary, why does that one not fit in that space?
I wouldn't use it as a collocation here, to me.
Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because basically this is a test of your knowledge of collocation. And I think this question is difficult for people because you can't logically work it out. It's not like some of the other questions where you can really use your knowledge of grammar to work out the answer. Here, it's literally either I know this or I don't. And I know that when we've talked about it, you've talked about your instinct and your gut feeling. Is that important in this question, do you think?
It is of paramount importance to trust your ear and your gut here.
Yeah.
And it is quite essential to have a solid reading routine. Right? This is how you learn these kind of collocations.
Absolutely. So basically, then we've got eight missing spaces and 8 suggestions down here. So you're really making that choice between 4 words for each of those spaces.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Sarah,
Mm.
have a look at the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I was just reading the second sentence. Now that some artifacts have become museum items, articles, pieces, objects, these 4 words are quite similar, aren't they?
Really similar. Really, really similar.
Mm.
So how do you choose?
Difficult, isn't it? I don't know. I would go with pieces because it sounds natural to me. I would choose C for sure.
And again, that's just recognizing that that's the collocation. Museum
Right.
pieces, that's what we talk about. Cool. So thanks for talking us through that. I'm going to close this screen share down now. And we're just going to have a little final chat about some strategies that people can use when they're tackling this question.
Right.
All right, Silvia, so we've looked at the question now, and I was wondering if you had any tips or suggestions for other candidates for how they can prepare themselves for doing the multiple choice close.
Right. First of all, you have to read a lot and read different sources. I mean, if you are into books, read fiction, but also non-fiction books. Try to be familiar with magazines, blog articles, entries, literary texts, because these are the kind of articles and texts you are going to find in your exam. Read as much as possible.
And why are you picking up on reading so much? Because I know that you love podcasts and that you like to listen to English. What for you is special about reading for this question?
The reading, you can see the written word and you can see how it combines with the next words like prepositions, nouns, adjectives, and so on. And this is how you become aware of how the language works. You can store it easily if you read, if you underline the words you don't know, not only the single word, but the entire chunk. While listening, you may skip words, don't you? I mean,
yeah. It's kind of easier, isn't it, when you've got the book to control the language and you can extract more easily. I always feel that by CPE, people need to be like single words in a list are not really good enough anymore.
No. You have to be collecting chunks and write them on a piece of paper in your notebook, have a box like this maybe, and store all the idioms, semantic expressions you are most likely not to remember. So you can revise them once, whenever you want, I mean.
Yeah, reviewing is super important.
It is.
Super important. Yeah.
It is. And then try to practice with the past papers. They are available on Cambridge website. So practice as much as possible with authentic material. Time yourself. It is important. Don't spend too much time on this kind of exercises. Remember, you only have 1 hour and a half to go through the use of English and the reading section. So time yourself. It is of paramount importance.
Yeah, timing is really important, and getting that exam technique down so that you know exactly how long you're going to spend on each part of the question, and that's all you have. That's super important. Definitely. Yeah. Cool. Sylvia, thank you so much for joining me and talking us through this difficult question. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Sure. Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.